Okay, so we want to talk about data-driven decision-making, a phrase you hear everywhere these days.
Yeah, it really does get thrown around a lot.
But what does it actually mean? And how is it different from just, making decisions? I mean, it can't be as simple as just glancing at some numbers and going, oh, well, the data says do this.
Right. It's definitely more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's an entire approach to problem solving, really, where you use data systematically to inform and guide the choices that you're making.
So it's not just about, like, crunching numbers. It's about using data to make smarter decisions, more informed decisions.
Exactly, yeah. And it's been a game changer in so many different fields,
Oh, yeah.
like business, science, healthcare, pretty much anything you can imagine.
And this isn't like a brand new idea, right?
Right.
People have been using data to make decisions for centuries, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about ancient astronomers charting the stars or merchants keeping track of their inventory.
Yeah.
They were using data maybe in a rudimentary way, but still to understand patterns
Right, right.
and to try to make better choices.
So data-driven decision-making has been around for ages, but it's become a much bigger deal recently.
Exactly. And I think there are a few key reasons for that. First, we have this explosion of data. It's everywhere. Every click, every purchase, every sensor reading, it's all generating data.
Yeah, it's crazy how much data is out there.
Yeah.
But what good is all that data if you don't know what to do with it?
That's where the second big shift comes in.
Okay.
Technology. We now have super powerful computers and these incredible algorithms that can actually help us make sense of all this data.
So is the combo of those massive amounts of data and the tools to analyze it, that's what's making data-driven decision-making so important today.
Exactly. And that's led to like an explosion of applications, I mean, across almost every field imaginable.
Okay, I'd love to dive into some of those applications. Where is data-driven decision-making really having a big impact?
Oh, well, in business, for example, companies are using data to understand their customers better,
That.
to personalize those marketing campaigns, to optimize pricing, and even manage risks.
So it's not just about, like, gut feeling
Yeah.
anymore. It's about using data to get a competitive edge.
Exactly. And it's not just in business either. In healthcare, doctors are using data from things like medical imaging and genetic testing to diagnose diseases earlier and to develop more personalized treatments for people.
Wow, that's incredible. Data is literally saving lives.
It really is.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and in fields like transportation, data is being used to design safer and more efficient systems.
Okay.
Everything from self-driving cars to smart traffic management.
So data-driven decision-making is touching, like, almost every aspect of our lives.
It really is, and I think it's only going to become more prevalent as we generate even more data and develop even more sophisticated tools to analyze it.
Okay, so we've talked about what data-driven decision-making is and some of its applications.
Mm.
But how does it actually work in practice? Are there, like, different types of data-driven decision-making?
That's a great question. And yes, there are definitely different approaches. One way to think about it is to break it down into categories, like based on the types of decisions being made.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me the categories.
All right. So one category is what we call operational decisions,
Okay.
which are those kind of day-to-day decisions that keep an organization running smoothly. Think about things like inventory management or scheduling or resource allocation.
So using data to make those everyday decisions more efficient.
Exactly. Then you have tactical decisions, which are a little more strategic and focus on achieving like specific goals.
Okay.
For example, a marketing team might use data to decide, which channels to use for a particular campaign or
Yeah.
how to segment their target audience.
So using data to make those decisions that move the needle on, specific projects or goals.
Right. And then finally, there are strategic decisions, which are those big picture decisions that shape the overall direction of a whole organization.
Right.
These decisions are often made by senior leaders, and they involve things like market entry or product development or mergers and acquisitions.
So using data to make those decisions that could make or break a company.
Exactly. And of course, these categories aren't always clear cut.
Yeah.
Many decisions kind of, fall somewhere in between.
Right.
But it's helpful to think about the different levels of decision making
Yeah.
and how data can be used to inform each level.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
This is all starting to make sense.
good.
But how do you actually implement data-driven decision-making? It can't be as simple as just, like, gathering some data and making a decision, right?
You're right. It's definitely not that simple. It's
Yeah.
a process, and it involves several key steps. First, you really need to define the problem you're trying to solve or the decision you need to make. What are you actually trying to achieve? What are the key questions you need to answer?
So start with a clear goal in mind.
Absolutely. Then you got to gather the relevant data. What data do you have available? What data do you need to collect? What are the best sources of information?
So figure out what data you need and where to get it.
Right. Once you have the data, you need to clean it and prepare it for analysis. This involves things like removing errors, handling missing values, and transforming the data into a format that's suitable for analysis.
Data cleaning.
Yeah.
Sounds glamorous.
I know, it's not the most exciting part, but it is absolutely essential.
Oh,
And
yeah.
garbage in, garbage out, as they
Sure.
say. Then you need to analyze the data to extract insights and answer those key questions you defined earlier. This is where you might use, statistical analysis or data visualization or machine learning techniques.
So this is where you actually start to make sense of the data
Yeah.
and find those hidden patterns.
Exactly. And finally, you have to communicate your findings and your recommendations in a way that's clear and concise and actionable.
So tell the story of the data in a way that helps people make decisions.
Right. And it's important to remember that data-driven decision-making is an iterative process.
Right.
You might need to go back and forth between these steps, refining your questions, gathering more data, or maybe even trying different analytical approaches.
So it's not like a one and done deal.
Right.
It's about constantly learning and adapting
Yeah.
as you get more information.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes it so powerful. It's a dynamic approach that helps you make better decisions over time.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful. I'm starting to see the power of data-driven decision making. But before we move on,
Mhm.
I'm curious, how does all of this relate to data analytics? Are they the same thing?
That's a common question. And the answer is data analytics is a crucial part of data-driven decision-making, but it's not the whole story.
Oh, yeah.
Data analytics really focuses on extracting insights and patterns from data, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what to do with those insights.
Okay.
Data-driven decision-making goes a step further by using those insights to inform and guide your choices.
So data analytics is like the detective gathering clues.
Yeah.
And data-driven decision-making is like the judge using those clues to make a ruling.
That's a great analogy.
All right, I think I've got a good handle on that, but we're running a little short on time for this segment.
Yeah, we are.
Let's take a quick break and come back to discuss what distinguishes this whole approach from intuition, as well as some of the challenges and limitations of data-driven decision-making.
Sounds good. And we're back, so ready to tackle those last few points.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've established that data-driven decision-making is, this systematic process of using data to inform choices.
Right.
But where does intuition fit into all of this? Is there still room for, gut feeling in this world of, algorithms and spreadsheets?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think it's about replacing intuition entirely. It's more about thinking of it as a partnership.
Okay, so like a dynamic duo. Data and intuition, fighting crime together.
Exactly. Data can reveal those blind spots in our thinking.
Right.
It can highlight patterns that we wouldn't have noticed otherwise. But human intuition is still vital for things like interpreting those patterns, understanding the context, and ultimately, making that final call.
So the data helps us see things more clearly, but we still need human judgment to decide what those things mean and how to act on them.
Precisely. A classic example is how Netflix uses data.
Oh, yeah.
They analyze viewing patterns and ratings, and even things like pause and rewind behavior to understand what people like.
Okay.
But ultimately, human experts still play a crucial role in, greenlighting new shows and deciding which projects to invest in.
So even in a company known for, its data-driven approach, there's still a place for that human touch.
Absolutely. It's about finding the right balance. Sometimes, the data will be crystal clear.
Right.
And other times it'll raise more questions than answers. That's where human intuition and creativity and, even a bit of risk-taking come in.
Makes sense. Data-driven decision-making isn't about turning humans into robots.
Right.
It's about giving us the best possible information so we can make the best possible choices.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so we've talked about the power of data-driven decision-making and how it interacts with intuition.
Right.
But like any approach, it's got to have some limitations, right?
Of course, it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
one of the biggest challenges is data quality.
Okay.
If the data you're using is inaccurate, incomplete, or biased, then, well, your decisions will reflect those flaws.
So garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Exactly. That's why data cleaning and validation are so important. You need to make sure you're working with reliable data before you go making any major decisions.
Data hygiene is key.
It really is.
What other challenges should we be aware of?
Another big one is interpreting the data correctly. Sometimes, correlations can be misleading. Just because two things happen together doesn't necessarily mean that one causes the other.
Correlation doesn't equal causation. I remember that from like Stats 101.
Got it. It's tempting to see patterns in the data and jump to conclusions, but you really have to think critically and consider other possible explanations.
You need to be a data detective, not just, a data cruncher.
Right. Another challenge is what we call overfitting. That's where you tailor a model too closely to a specific data set.
Okay.
It might work perfectly on that data, but it'll fail miserably when you try to apply it to new data.
So it's like making a key that only unlocks one specific door.
Exactly.
It's not very useful in the real world.
Precisely. Avoiding overfitting requires careful model selection, rigorous testing, and a healthy dose of skepticism.
So there's more to it than just like throwing data at an algorithm and expecting, magic to happen.
Exactly. Data-driven decision-making requires careful planning, critical thinking, and a really deep understanding of the data itself.
Okay, one last challenge. Technology keeps evolving at such a rapid pace. How do you keep up with all the new tools and techniques?
That's a constant challenge, honestly.
Yeah.
Even for seasoned data scientists.
Yeah.
And the landscape is always changing with new algorithms, new platforms, new approaches emerging all the time.
So you're saying data-driven decision-making requires continuous learning and adaptation.
Absolutely. It's about staying curious, experimenting with new tools, and always looking for ways to improve your process.
So it's not just about mastering like the current tools, it's about being ready for whatever comes next.
Exactly. That's the exciting part. We're still in the early stages of this data revolution, and who knows what incredible advancements are just around the corner.
Okay, that's pretty inspiring. It sounds like data-driven decision-making is not only powerful, but also, constantly evolving.
It absolutely is. And as we wrap up this segment, I think it's worth emphasizing that while there are challenges, the potential benefits they're immense.
Yeah.
By embracing data-driven decision-making, we can unlock incredible insights, make smarter choices, and ultimately shape a better future for ourselves and the world around us.
Okay, I'm officially convinced that data-driven decision-making is a force to be reckoned with.
Good.
But before we get too carried away, I think let's move on to explore some of those cutting-edge advancements that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible with data.
Sounds good.
I, for one, can't wait to see what the future holds.
And we're back, ready for those cutting-edge advancements.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about them. So we've talked about the power of data-driven decision-making, and we talked about some of the challenges.
Right.
But what's next? What's on the horizon that's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible?
Well, one area that's just exploding right now is artificial intelligence, especially machine learning. We're seeing algorithms that can analyze these massive data sets and identify these really complex patterns and make predictions with an accuracy that, it was unthinkable just a few years ago.
Yeah, machine learning seems to be everywhere these days.
It is.
Can you give me some concrete examples of how it's actually being used in data-driven decision-making?
Absolutely. In finance, for example, machine learning algorithms are being used to detect fraudulent transactions in real time.
Wow.
Assess credit risk, and even make investment recommendations.
Oh,
In healthcare, these algorithms are helping doctors diagnose diseases earlier, personalize treatment plans, and even discover new drugs.
so machine learning is taking data-driven decision-making to a whole new level.
It really is. And it's not just about, crunching numbers.
Right.
Some algorithms can even analyze images and text and audio data,
Oh,
which opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
That's incredible. Are there any other advancement that you're particularly excited about?
Another area that's really rapidly evolving is data visualization.
Oh,
We're kind of moving beyond those, simple charts and graphs to create these interactive, immersive experiences that allow us to explore data in entirely new ways.
so instead of just looking at a spreadsheet, you can actually step into the data and see it from all these different angles.
Exactly. And that's incredibly powerful because it helps us understand those, those complex relationships, identify the hidden patterns, and communicate insights in a way that's just much more engaging and impactful.
It sounds like data visualization is not just about making data like prettier, it's about making more meaningful.
Precisely. And when you combine those powerful visualization tools with the analytical capabilities of machine learning, I mean, you have a recipe for some truly groundbreaking discoveries.
This is all so fascinating.
It is.
But as we, become more and more reliant on data and algorithms, how do we make sure that these tools are being used ethically and responsibly?
Yeah, that's a crucial question.
Yeah,
As with any powerful technology, there's always a potential for misuse.
right.
That's why it's so important to have really clear guidelines and regulations in place to ensure that data is being used for good.
So we need to be thinking about the ethical implications of data-driven decision making,
Yeah.
like from the very beginning.
Absolutely. And that involves everything from, protecting individual privacy to ensuring that the algorithms themselves are fair and unbiased.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider as we navigate this data-driven world.
There is, but I'm optimistic about the future. I think data has the potential to solve some of the world's biggest challenges,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
from climate change to poverty to disease.
Data as a force for good. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. And as we continue to develop these powerful tools, it's up to all of us to ensure that they're used wisely and ethically.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into data-driven decision making,
Hmm.
I think the key takeaway is that data is a powerful tool, but it's just that. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's up to us to use it thoughtfully and responsibly.
I agree. And by combining, that power of data with human ingenuity and ethical considerations, we can create a brighter future for everyone.
Folks, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the historical roots of data analysis to the mind-blowing possibilities of artificial intelligence. But I think it's important to remember that this is really just the tip of the iceberg. This world of data is vast and constantly evolving. So stay curious, keep asking questions, and most importantly, use data to make a positive impact on the world around you.